Affection, like the morning fog on a mountain, is delicate, serene, and seemingly permanent. Yet when the sun ascends, the fog vanishes, revealing the unyielding stone beneath. Why does affection transform? Why do people who once looked upon you with tenderness suddenly turn away with coldness?
In Zen and Buddhist thought, impermanence, or anicca, is a basic truth of existence. All things, including feelings, relationships, and bonds, are subject to alteration. The Buddha once said that as a river never holds to its shores, it flows. Similarly, the heart moves from one state to another. When someone's affection for you diminishes, they don't announce it with fanfare, rather, they demonstrate it through two silent yet powerful actions that mark the ending of what once was. To understand these, let's explore a tale, a Zen parable about affection lost and the insight of letting go, the story of the falling leaves. There was once a seeker, a man of profound thought and tranquil nature, who spent his days pursuing understanding of the heart. He experienced affection, felt its warmth, and trusted in its constancy. However, one day, the one he cared for, the person who once held his hand with gentle assurance, began to change. Initially, it was subtle, like the first leaf that descends from a tree before autumn fully sets in. Then, the changes became obvious. Words became fewer, glances shorter, and the space between them grew heavy with unsaid truths. Seeking wisdom. The seeker went to an ancient monk who resided in the mountains. This man's presence was like still water, calm, reflective, and full of hidden depths. "Master," the seeker inquired, "I am afraid that affection is slipping away from me. The one who once walked alongside me now walks ahead, indifferent as to whether I follow or not. What have I done wrong?" The old monk closed his eyes for a moment and then said, "When affection fades, it doesn't disappear like smoke in the wind, it recedes like the tide, revealing the shore that was always there. There are two things that individuals do when their affection for you wanes. Observe carefully and you will see. They diminish their presence." The monk led the seeker to a small garden, where a tall tree stood with broad branches, providing shade. A young bird rested on the tree, chirping happily. "Do you see this bird?" the monk asked. The seeker nodded. "Now watch." The monk gently waved his hand, and the bird, sensing the disturbance, flew away. "Affection," the monk said, "is like this bird. When it is comfortable, it lingers, singing and making a home in your presence. But when affection begins to fade, it will withdraw subtly. At first, they will no longer sit close to you. Their laughter will not be as frequent, their words will no longer flow like a river, but drip like the last drops from an empty pitcher. This is the first sign. When someone's affection for you fades, they diminish their presence, even if their body remains." The seeker frowned, "But why don't they simply tell me? Why this slow withdrawal instead of honesty?" The monk smiled gently, "Because they themselves are still learning the truth. Affection doesn't disappear all at once, it fades like the last ember of a dying fire. A person doesn't wake up and decide to stop loving, rather, they realize it as the days pass. Their heart becomes a silent traveler, already walking away, while their body remains." The seeker looked down, his heart heavy. "So what should one do? Should I chase after them? Should I beg them to stay?" The monk shook his head. "Would you chase the bird that has flown away? Would you beg the tree to hold on to its falling leaves? No, my dear seeker. When affection withdraws, do not run after it. Instead, honor its departure. Affection that is forced to stay is no longer affection, it is a prisoner in the heart's cage." The seeker sighed, feeling the weight of the monk's words settle in his chest. But he was not yet satisfied. "And the second thing?" he asked. What else do people do when affection wanes? They become someone else. The monk led the seeker further into the garden, where a pond lay still and clear, reflecting the sky above. Look into the water, the monk instructed. The seeker bent down and saw his reflection staring back at him. It was familiar yet somehow different in the shifting ripples. Now, the monk said, "Observe." He picked up a small stone and dropped it into the pond. The water trembled, the reflection shattered, and in its place was a new form, distorted, unfamiliar. When someone's affection for you wanes, the monk explained, they not only diminish their presence, they become someone else. The person who once laughed at your jokes, who once sought your company, will now seem like a stranger. Their face is the same, but their heart is elsewhere. Their words no longer carry warmth, their touch no longer holds meaning. This is the second sign, the one you knew is gone, replaced by someone different. The seeker clenched his hands, but why? How can affection transform a person so much? The monk looked at him with infinite patience. Because affection is identity. When one loves, they become intertwined with another, like two trees growing side by side. But when affection fades, the roots untangle, they seek a different soil, a different sky. The person you see now is not the person who loved you, for they have shed that skin. You grieve not only for lost affection, but for the person they once were. Tears filled the seeker's eyes. So what should one do when this happens? How does one bear such loss? The path of letting go. The monk took a deep breath, as if inhaling the sorrow of the seeker and then exhaled it with infinite peace. You do nothing, he said. You accept. Accept? The seeker repeated, his voice breaking. Yes, accept that all things change. Accept that affection, like the seasons, must shift. Do not chase after what is already leaving, and do not mourn what has already transformed. Instead, be still like the pond. When the ripples fade, you will see the truth. And what is the truth? The seeker whispered. The monk smiled, his eyes filled with the light of deep understanding. The truth is that affection does not belong to you, it never did. It flows through you, visits you, changes you, but it is not yours to own. When affection leaves, do not grasp at it. Instead, bow to it, thank it for its time, and let it go like the last leaf in autumn. The seeker wiped his tears. He looked at the pond again, watching as the water slowly returned to stillness. He understood now. Affection is not a possession but a guest, and when it leaves, one must not lock the door, one must bow and let it pass, the wisdom of impermanence. The seeker's journey did not end at the monastery, nor did his lesson stop with the monk's words. The path before him was long, winding through valleys of memory and mountains of longing. Yet, as he walked, he found that each step was lighter than the last. The weight of loss had not vanished, but it had become something else, something softer, something he could carry without breaking under its burden. What had changed? It was not the pain of affection's departure that had lessened, nor was it the reality of being left behind. What had transformed was his attachment to affection itself. He had stopped thinking of affection as a thing to be kept, as a possession that could be lost. Instead, he began to see affection as the monk had described it, a river, a bird, a season. In Zen teachings, suffering, dukkha, arises from our desire to hold on to things that are by their nature fleeting. We want permanence in a world where nothing remains unchanged. We want security in a realm where everything moves, shifts, and dissolves. This is why losing affection is so painful, because we believe we have lost something that should have lasted forever. But the truth is, affection was never ours to lose. Understanding the two signs more deeply. The two signs the monk spoke of, diminishing presence and becoming someone else, are not acts of cruelty nor are they betrayals. They are the natural unfolding of impermanence in relationships. 1. The diminishing of presence, when affection fades. People retreat, they stop reaching out, their laughter is no longer shared in the same way. This absence is painful, but in its pain, there is wisdom. It teaches us that affection is not just words or promises, it is action, presence, energy. Affection cannot exist where presence is absent. If someone no longer wishes to share their presence with you, they have already walked away in their heart. But this withdrawal is also a gift. It is the universe telling you, let go. It is showing you that affection cannot be forced, that it cannot be begged for or demanded. If someone no longer offers their presence, do not chase after them, instead, turn inward and offer presence to yourself. Sit with your pain, do not run from it. Watch it, understand it, and in doing so, you will begin to heal. 2. The becoming of someone else. The second sign is even more painful because it is not just distance, it is transformation. The person who once loved you, who once understood your heart, now seems foreign. They laugh at different things, speak with a different tone, and walk a path that no longer includes you. Why does this happen? Because affection changes us. When two people come together in affection, they share experiences, thoughts, and emotions that shape who they are. But when affection fades, they start reshaping themselves again, this time away from you. This transformation is not an act of malice, it is simply nature at work. Just as a caterpillar does not remain a caterpillar forever, people do not remain in the same emotional states. They evolve, sometimes together, sometimes apart. When you see this change, do not resist it. Do not try to remind them of who they were. That person no longer exists. Instead, bow to the person they have become and let them walk their own path. How to let go without bitterness. One of the greatest challenges of affection's impermanence is learning to let go without anger, without resentment, without clinging to bitterness. Buddhist wisdom teaches that resentment is like holding a hot coal with the intention of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. So, how do we release affection when it no longer wishes to stay? 1. Honor what was. Instead of focusing on the pain of loss, remember the beauty of what once existed. Be grateful for the moments of affection, for they were real. 2. Do not chase the bird. If someone has withdrawn their affection, let them go. Chasing them will only prolong your suffering. 3. Release attachment, not affection. Affection does not have to be tied to possession. You can love someone and still let them go. Affection does not mean holding, it means wishing them happiness, even if it is without you. 4. Turn towards yourself. Often when we grieve lost affection, we believe we have lost a part of ourselves, but this is an illusion. You are still whole. Affection did not complete you, it only reflected the affection that was already within you. The ultimate truth, affection is not gone, it has transformed. At the end of his journey, the seeker came to a great river. He stood at its edge and watched as the water flowed endlessly forward. He thought about the one who had left him. He thought about the pain, the longing, the nights spent wondering why. And then, as he watched the river, he understood. Affection had not disappeared, it had simply changed form. The affection he once knew had become something else, a lesson, a memory, a part of his own growth. It had left him, but in leaving, it had also shaped him. The affection that had once been in another's eyes was now in his own reflection. Affection had not died, it had simply moved, as all things must. With this realization, the seeker did not cry. He did not grieve. Instead, he bowed not to loss, not to pain, but to affection itself in all its forms. And then, he walked forward, not in search of affection, but in acceptance of it, wherever it may come and however it may leave. For affection is not something to be held, it is something to be lived.
Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Just click the subscribe button below and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Also, feel free to leave a comment and let me know what you'd like to see next.